Okay, so friends, this webinar is about e-invoice, and as first let me give my introduction. I'm Satish Mehta. I'm a cost accountant with 42 years of experience, and this experience includes around 15 years of work in information technology section. Uh, so I thought my knowledge of information technology can be useful uh, in working on the e-invoice. So that is why I am here to guide you on e-invoice. This presentation is divided in three sessions rather. Today is session 1 where we will cover the basic detail. In session 2 we will cover how to generate e-invoice, and we will show you demo of the portal, e-invoice portal, not the GSTN portal. And the third session will be on selection of software. Again, these are done in two language. One is in English only. Today's session is in English. Second set of sessions will be doing in English plus Hindi for those who find English little difficult to understand. This purely English session will be, today is the first session. Tomorrow will be the second session again at 4:15 p.m. Uh, and it will also have experience sharing by CA Venugopal ji using Tele and GST Zen to work on e-invoicing. And the third session will be on 28 November, Saturday. English plus Hindi combined session, first will be on 25th November, second will be on 26th November, Thursday, and the third session date yet we have to fix. All this session will be at 4:15 p.m. only. Now coming to this particular session, our total work is divided into 5 parts: applicability of e-invoice, then understanding e-invoice, then implication of e-invoice on the working of the organization, particularly on software side and system side, then some reference information for those who want to study more, and finally we will discuss dynamic QR code, which is not really part of e-invoice, but similar to invoice, and that is why many times people get confused about it. After each part, we'll be stopping for your questions. Also, during the any presentation, also if you want to ask any question, you can ask the question. Because we are small group, so it's possible that you ask the question. When there is a webinar of a large number of persons, asking question in between is difficult, and there you have to type the question in the chat box. Here we will not insist that. You can unmute yourself and speak the question, and I'll reply immediately. And it will be two-way communication. There'll be a sort of discussion whether you have understood the answer properly or not. If not, we can explain further. So this is the advantage of smaller session. You should be able to understand it fully. If anything is not clear, please don't hesitate to ask. With this, we'll begin part A, applicability of e-invoice. Most of you may be already knowing that e-invoice is already applicable to organization with 500 crore turnover from 1st of October 2020. They had given 30 days grace period during which they were permitted to dispatch the material without e-invoice, but of course with tax invoice, and e-invoice can be prepared later on. That period was also, that grace is also over by the end of October, and now they are all expected to dispatch material only after preparation of e-invoice. For less than 500 but more than 100 crore turnover, more than or equal to, e-invoice will be applicable from 1st January. And it will be applicable to BNB, business to business invoice plus export invoice. We'll cover type of invoice in more detail. Uh, or let me explain right now. B2B invoice means invoice where the customer has got GSTIN number so that he can get credit also, ITC credit. That is called B2B invoice. And export, you already know. In export, again, it can be with payment of duty to so that you get refund automatic, or it can be without payment of duty and you separately make a refund application. All those plus deemed export uh, invoices are covered. Those persons who are in SCZ, those organizations are not covered. Then government is planning to extend this invoice from 1st of April 2021 to all the organization. This is the notification for organizations having 100 crore turnover. So those who are more interested in legal side can study this. Now, one important question is what is aggregate turnover and how to calculate it. Many people are getting confused about this. Uh, just 1 minute, I'll mute everybody. I have muted everybody, but you can again uh, unmute yourself. That option is given to you. Whenever you want to ask question, you can unmute and ask question. So to calculate aggregate turnover, you have to include B2B turnover where customer has got GSTIN number. You have also to add B2C where customer does not have GSTIN number, mainly retail sale. Then you have to add export. You have to add exempt supply also. If you are selling some exempt goods, that is also to be added for the purpose of working out aggregate turnover. You have to also add interstate transfer from your one GSTIN in one state to GSTIN in another state. And you have to add turnover of all the GSTIN associated with your PAN together to get aggregate turnover. The only thing which is not to be included is the inward supply on which RCM is applicable. That is normally on that you have to pay GST, but this is not your sales, so this is not to be included. And this type of aggregate turnover is to be calculated from 2017-18, 18-19 and 19-20. And in any of the year, if it exceeds the limit, then e-invoice is applicable to you. And this does not depend on turnover shown in your profit and loss account. Their turnover may be less, but because of this interstate transfer, your GST aggregate turnover may be more than what is the turnover in profit and loss account. So particularly those organizations whose interstate transfer is more, they've got a factory in one state and transferring material to another state to their warehouses, etc. They have to be very careful in calculating uh, aggregate turnover because their profit and loss account may show less than 100 crore turnover, but as per GST aggregate turnover may cross 100 crore. This is most important part where some people are getting confused. So is it clear to everybody or anybody has got any question on this? I'll move forward. Exemption. These organizations are given exemption, SCZ. But uh, the SEZ developers are not exempt. They have to make e-invoice. And secondly, if you are selling, if e-invoice is applicable to you and you are selling to SEZ, then uh, you have to make e-invoice for that also. Then free trade warehousing zone, it is not applicable. Insurance and banking company, it is not applicable. GTA, not applicable. Passenger transportation, not applicable. Multiplex, not applicable. So for all these uh, organizations, e-invoice is not applicable. But if they are doing any other type of sale, then it will be applicable. If they are doing two type of business, some falling in this area and some falling in other area, then it will be applicable to them. Now, to which document it is applicable? First of all, if that which transaction it is applicable. If there is a taxable B2B sale, then it is applicable. Again, B2B means sale to a customer who has got GSTIN number. And it should be taxable, not exempt. If it is exempt sale, you don't have to make invoice. If it is sale to B2C type of sale, that means sale to a customer who does not have GSTIN number, then you don't have to make invoice. Then for export, you have to make invoice, all type of export. RCM invoices. If you are selling on something or providing services and the other party is paying on reverse charge basis, then you have to make that invoice using e-invoice method. But if you are paying on reverse charge method to other party which provides you services or goods, then for that you don't have to make e-invoice. This should not be confused. You need to be very clear on RCM. Then the documents covered is one is invoice, the debit note and credit note. All these three documents are to be prepared using e-invoice methodology. So with this applicability part is over. Uh, mm, would anybody, is there any question? Anybody would like to ask any question on this, or is it clear to everybody? I think you will have to unmute yourself before you ask question.
Okay, okay. Would you please repeat that RCM applicability? You said that it is not applicable. Can you repeat it, please? I couldn't get.
In case of RCM,
Ah.
if you are paying it on reverse charge method, let's say if you are receiving security services and you are paying RCM on that.
Okay.
Now that invoice is not to be made using e-invoice.
Okay, that's meant that supplier service provider is issuing that invoice. Service provider is issuing that invoice. We don't need to upload that invoice. Make the e-invoice, no?
If you are receiving some services or goods for which you are making self-invoice, that self-invoice is not covered by e-invoice.
Okay.
You have to pay GST on that on reverse charge basis. So you have to make self-invoice, but e-invoice is not covered to that, applicable to that.
Okay, it is not applicable.
Yeah, it's not applicable. But if you are covered by e-invoice based on aggregate turnover, and if you are providing some goods or services on which RCM is applicable, so the other party will be paying GST, then you have to make invoice for that. And in the invoice preparation, there is one field called RCM applicable or not. There you have to select that flag as yes.
Okay.
So there, although GST will be paid by recipient, e-invoice will be made by supplier if e-invoice is applicable to supplier based on his turnover limit.
Okay.
Okay. Any other question?
Okay, clear.
Hello, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Who's speaking?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Is it applicable to security service e-invoice?
No, as on today, when we are talking about 1st of January 2021, the
Yeah.
turnover should exceed 100 crore.
Okay.
If there is some security services
Yeah.
whose aggregate turnover overall throughout India is more than 100 crore, then only it will be applicable.
Okay, sir.
So if there is a small security organization with less than 100 crore turnover,
Yeah.
it will not be applicable from 1st January.
Okay, sir.
It may
Thank
be
you.
applicable from 1st of April.
Yeah.
1st of April 2021, it may be applicable,
Yes.
but not from January.
Thank you, sir.
Any other question? Okay, I think there is no question, so I'll move back and we'll continue our presentation. How to prepare e-invoice? Just give me 1 minute. Now we will look at in broad terms how to prepare invoice. This will be further explained in more detail in session 2. So first is here schema. Government has specified schema in notification number 60/2020 that e-invoice has to be prepared as per that schema. And that schema gives what fields should be there, what should be the size limit on each of the field, which are required field, which are optional field. So based on that, as your invoice should meet all that requirement. And this is very important requirement because many of you may be using some invoicing application which may not be designed to take care of invoice. So there, although you may be generating invoice, but it may not meet the e-invoice requirement, or this it may not be as per this schema, then that invoice cannot be converted to e-invoice. While converting e-invoice, you will face various issues. So in your invoice preparation software, you have to check and ensure that it is preparing invoice as per this schema. Then once that is there, you have prepared invoice. After that, you have to convert it to JSON format. Now, this conversion tool are available. Government has provided tools to convert your invoice data. In this tool, you can put your invoice data. It is Excel file where you can copy paste your Excel data, and then it will get converted to JSON. But most important part is data should be as per the schema's requirement. If it is not there, it will just give error message. It will not convert. Uh, and those tool again we will be explaining in more detail in the second session. Then third part is upload. Whatever these JSON files are created using that tool, they are to be uploaded to the e-invoice portal. Again, the portal will validate, and if they found that invoice is valid, it will return you back the e-invoice signed by government, digitally signed by government, plus invoice reference number, or in short it is called IRN, and QR code. This thing you have to save with you because they will not be available after 24 hours. So you need to save them properly and ensure that they are not lost. And the invoice that we receive back from government, that is the valid invoice. And that you have to send it to your supplier also. As of today, government is not sending. So it's your responsibility to send it to supplier. You can send it via email, or you can print and send physical copy. Now, some of the terminology we will see. What are these in invoice? When we send the JSON file to government, it validates, and along with it, it gives IRN number. What is that? That is invoice reference number. Government assigns a unique reference number to each invoice, and that it sends us back. Using that number, we can track the invoice. It's unique throughout India. Uh, and this is a sample IRN number. You can see it, it's very big, 64 character, and it is alphanumeric. It's not suitable for reading an entry, because if you try to do entry, you will definitely make mistake somewhere. And but it is designed for use by system. That I'll show you next how to do that. I'll explain. Uh, in addition to that, government is also sending QR code, and in this QR code also IRN is included. So when you scan a QR code, the IRN will also get scanned, and using that IRN, then you can uh, refer to the invoice, or you can validate the invoice. Whether invoice is valid or not, that check can also be made. This IRN is derived from this four information: your GSTIN number or supplier's GSTIN number, year of invoice, document type, whether it is invoice or debit note or credit note, and document number assigned by supplier. Whatever number, invoice number or debit note number or credit note number you assign, that number is also taken into account for creating this IRN number, and it is created by government and sent back. Now coming to QR code. When you are sending your JSON file to government, and if it is found to be valid, then government sends back QR code also. And this QR code is also digitally signed by government. That means from QR code, one can be sure that you have filed the invoice with government and it is valid by verifying the QR code. It is based on following data: GSTIN of supplier. In QR code, your GSTIN number is included, your recipient's or customer's GSTIN number is included, whatever invoice number you have given, that is included, date of generation of invoice is also included in it, invoice value, taxable value as well as gross value is included, number of line items, how many lines are there in an invoice, how many items are sold. Only the total count of that item is included. Each and every item is line is not included. Then HSN code of main item. If you have 5 different items with different HSN code, where the value is highest, that item's HSN code is included in the invoice, not all the HSN code. And lastly, the unique invoice reference number, or the IRN code, which I explained earlier, which government has generated, that is also included in this QR code. This QR code looks like this. So anybody can scan this QR code, and even government has given a tool to scan the QR code and find out whether it is valid invoice or not. Next, once you got e-invoice plus IRN plus QR code, now what you have to do is you can print e-invoice or generate PDF file. Now that how to generate, government is giving you freedom. It should, I mean, you can put your company's logo, etc. How to format is also again your choice. Government is not giving any restriction on formatting. So you can generate QR code. The only thing which is required is the PDF file or the printed invoice should have QR code in it. That is the only requirement. IRN again you can include or you may not include, it's optional. When you are sending e-invoice, government is also giving acknowledgement number. Uh, Certain persons are including that acknowledgement number because it is small and you can easily enter it, but that is also optional. Once this PDF file is generated or you have printed the e-invoice, it is your responsibility to send it to your customer. At present, government is not sending to customer. In future, government may start doing it, but at present, it's seller's or supplier's responsibility to do it. Now, impact of invoice on the recipient. How the recipient will be impacted. Uh, this particular part I am explaining is applicable to all the recipient, even those whose turnover is less than 100 crore, and it is applicable right from 1st of November. So first thing, if you are getting any material from supplier and that supplier is having turnover exceeding the limit, and that supplier is sending you invoice which is not an invoice, which is ordinary tax invoice, then that tax invoice is not valid. And if on the way that invoice is caught, it will be considered as if that material was moving without proper invoice, and the material can be detained, the vehicle can be detained, and you will also not get credit on such invoice. So you need to check whether your supplier e-invoice is applicable to your supplier or not. Government is giving facility to check that. In our second session, we will show this. This is available on the GSTN portal. You have to just enter GSTN number of your supplier, and it will confirm whether it is okay. I mean, whether e-invoice is applicable to that supplier or not. The second is receipt of invoice. If you are receiving any invoice, and if it is from a supplier to whom e-invoice is applicable, then you need to check whether it is valid invoice or not. If it is not valid invoice, you will not get credit. And same implication even on the way, if the vehicle is caught with such invoice, it can be detained. So for this checking of invoice, government is giving one very good application which you can download on your mobile phone, and using your mobile phone you can scan the invoice QR code, and it will tell whether it is valid or not valid. And this is offline utility, means it does not require internet connection. Just by scanning QR code, the mobile phone will tell whether it is valid invoice or not. Again, we will show this how to download, where is the option in the e-invoice portal in the second session of this webinar. So now I will I am telling you which are the points will be covered in second session in more detail. The first will explain e-invoice portal, what are the options available there. We'll explain you what is the schema we just talked about schema, that schema gives what field should be included in e-invoice, which are optional, which are required, and what should be the limit on size, etc. What should be the validation on those fields that schema gives. That will be explaining. Then detail of validation required. How government checks whether invoice is valid or not, and those check you need to do prior to sending it to government, so that your invoice is not rejected. Those will discuss and explain you. Then government is giving, or rather e-invoice portal is giving bulk generation tool to convert your ordinary invoice from an Excel data to JSON file, which is required for sending to government. So those tool we will explain, and we will show you the manuals, help option, and FAQ available on portal. And the 2 points which we discussed just now, checking of invoice applicability to supplier and checking of validity of invoice, those also we will be showing you in more detail in the second part. So with this, this part is over. Once again, any question from anybody? This was little technical part, so I think everything may not be clear. So if anything is not clear, you should ask. No question from anybody?
I have one question, sir.
Yes, sir.
Regarding that HSN number of more than multiple item, more than one item.
Yeah.
That only one item, principal items, HSN can be provided. Yeah, system will provide. System will consider.
No, it will be included in QR code.
QR code.
Invoice, all the HSN and each line full detail will be there.
Okay.
See, there are two different things. One is e-invoice. In e-invoice, full information will be there for each line item. What is HSN code, what is description, quantity, rate, value, tax, everything. But in QR code, there'll be only one HSN code, which is the highest value item.
That means we need to provide all HSN code along with the item description.
Yes, in e-invoice, HSN code are required.
Okay. Okay. In case of QR code, only one HSN will be reflected in the.
Out of all those HSN, only one will be picked up, and it will be reflected in QR code.
That will be of principal item.
Principal item, yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, sir.
There is one question. Is there only e-invoice sufficient for movement of goods? Okay. Sorry, I missed to tell you. E-way bill is required. As of now, e-way bill is also required for movement of goods, depending upon the provision of the respective state and the value. But wherever e-way bill is applicable, e-way bill is required. As of now, there is no exemption from e-way bill, and e-way bill can be made only after you have prepared e-invoice and uploaded to government. And those data will be transferred to e-way bill portal. So in e-way bill, again, you don't have to enter all those data. You have to only enter additional data and your e-way bill will be ready. Or there is second option, along with e-invoice data, you also provide e-way bill data, vehicle number, etc. And e-invoice and e-way bill both will be prepared together. So it is your choice how to do it. But e-invoice, e-way bill is also required as of now wherever it is applicable. That applicability is to be decided based on whatever rules you are following today for e-way bill. Same rules will be applicable to that. Yes, sir.
See, in case today, if I am making the invoice, e-way bill also. If I do not want to send that vehicle today, so I wanted to make it next day, 2-3 days back later. So that case, can we make the e-way bill after 2 days or whenever I wanted to make the e-way bill?
Yes, Invoice you today prepare it today. Don't prepare e-way bill if you are not dispatching material today. E-way bill you make after 3 days. No issue.
Is there any integration with e-way bill and e-invoicing?
It is already integrated. So whatever data you entered on in your e-invoice, that will be automatically transferred to e-way bill portal.
Okay.
You have to give only additional data. That means the vehicle number and date of transportation and things like that.
In case if you want to provide that information, vehicle number and transporter details, at the time of providing the details of invoicing, that e-way bill will be generated at the moment, the same moment.
If you give the detail, then e-way bill will be generated.
So we will have to hold that part.
Yes,
transporter
if you give
detail.
the detail, then e-way bill will be generated, and then if you don't transport the material within time limit, then there will be problem. So don't give that detail in any case. Normally, that detail may not be available if you are not transporting the material. For example, in which vehicle you are transporting, that you may not know. Your vehicle number may not be available. It will be available only when you are transporting.
So this may be possible, no, one time, sorry for interruption. This may be possible. Sometimes if I load the vehicle material, so the invoice is also prepared. In case of some unfortunate, the vehicle got breakdown.
No, that means you have already loaded the material in vehicle and you wanted to dispatch immediately, or you did not want to dispatch?
Yeah, of course, I wanted to dispatch immediately, but in case of any breakdown of vehicle, we are not unable to send the material. So it has to be.
Then whatever rules about cancellation of e-way bill and generation of e-way bill is applicable, that is applicable. You can cancel the e-way bill.
Okay, only thing e-way bill I can cancel the e-way bill, but is it possible because invoice e-way bill is generated based on the e-invoice?
No, e-invoice you may not cancel. You may cancel only e-way bill.
That is possible in this system?
That is possible. The other way around is not possible. Either you can cancel e-way bill only, or you can cancel both e-way bill plus e-invoice within 24 hours only. E-invoice cancellation is permitted only within 24 hours on the e-invoice portal. Then subsequently, if you want to make any correction or cancellation, it can be done on GSTN portal. But not e-invoice. On e-invoice portal, you can't delete that e-invoice subsequently.
Okay.
Sir, when our purchase return goods, rejected goods, we send through delivery challan, it is also required for e-invoice for delivery challan?
E-invoice is not applicable to delivery challan, but it is applicable to debit note and credit note.
But so if we send the goods, interstate goods, one state to another state, that in that time required for e-invoice, or
when you are sending goods from one state to another state from your on one GSTIN to another GSTIN, for that e-invoice is required.
But invoice, okay.
But same state is not required for on the delivery challan basis.
Within same state, you don't make invoice, you make only delivery challan.
Yes.
So wherever you are making delivery challan, e-invoice is not required. Wherever you are making invoice, e-invoice is required.
Means we can't send any material under delivery challan one state to another state. That's what you say.
Yes, we can't say send any material. If you are sending from one state to another state, invoice is required even today.
No, our purchase return goods, our company procedure, we send through delivery challan, and then supplier give the credit note us. That's why only for
return. See, what I was talking about, your goods transferred from your one location to another location in different state. Their e-invoice is required. Now, in case of purchase return, if you are making credit note, then again for credit note, that is required.
A credit note issued by the supplier. We
then okay, credit note is issued by supplier, but then okay, that supplier may not have crossed the limit, then that supplier, it will not be applicable.
Is it possible to send the debit note? Under the debit note, can we send the material along with the delivery challenge?
No, there is very clearly specified in the GST
Section 34.
where debit note and where credit note is required. So if you
Yeah,
are returning the material back, then it is the supplier who is probably giving
credit note, debit note.
credit note, debit note.
Yeah.
Not
I studied this section 34 bracket 1 and bracket 3 for the specific rules for when you issue the credit note or debit note. And generally, suppliers only issue the credit note, debit note in under such conditions where the price variation and tax variation. This case, they issue the debit note. Otherwise, only the option the tax invoice or the delivery challenge to return the purchase return goods.
Sir, is it possible that can we send it along with the delivery challenge and the debit note? Is it possible?
No, see, wherever delivery challan is applicable, as on today, without, let's say, forget about invoice. If there is a invoice is not applicable and you, under GST law, you have to send the material using delivery challan, there invoice is not applicable. You can continue sending using delivery challan. But wherever you are sending using debit note, credit note, or e-invoice, those transactions will require e-invoice.
Okay. So that means it is possible the delivery challenge along with the debit note, along with the eBay bill, that is possible for sending rejected good.
Delivery challan will still work.
Yeah, delivery challenge and eBay bill is required for any purchase return.
My question, sir,
that transaction will continue the way it is. E-invoice will not be applicable to delivery challan.
okay.
Sir, sir,
Yeah, yes, sir.
if goods are sent for job work, then what will happen?
For job work, only delivery challan is required.
Yeah.
So delivery invoice is not applicable to job work.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay.
I have a small question.
Yes, sir.
Is
Somebody
there
was asking question.
Yeah, this is Anji Reddy. And my question is with regarding to generation of IRN. For example, my invoice has generated on 1st November. Is there any time limit to generate the IRN? If I want to generate the IRN after 2 or 3 days, can I do that?
As of today, government is permitting generation of IRN, or that is generation of e-invoice, few days after also.
Okay.
Later on, they are going to put a limit of 48 hours. After that, you may not be able to generate. But as of today, since probably there are many organizations who might not have generated invoice in time, so to facilitate them to cover up all the balance invoice, as of today, there is no restriction put on time limit. Only future dated invoices cannot be generated.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other question?
Is there any software is available to do the JS1 file which was e-signed by the IRP portal to get the PDF? Is there any software is being provided by the government, or else it's an internal software we have to be used by the company?
Government is not providing such software, but government is providing only one software, which is to convert the invoice data into JSON file. That tools they are providing. Again, we will be covering those tools in detail in the second session tomorrow. And there are a lot of software available in market which provide different type of functionality. Again, it will be covered in third session in more detail. But in brief, I'll tell there are certain software which just converts the invoice data into JSON, then upload to government and get back the valid invoice, and then
Okay.
save those signed invoice received from government. There are second type of software which gives you facility to create invoice also. You do data entry in the invoice screen. Invoice is generated, it will be uploaded to government portal and converted into valid e-invoice and
Okay.
then saved. Then there are third type of software which do accounting also along with invoicing. And fourth type of software which is entire ERP package. So that means they can do not only invoicing and accounting, but finished goods stock record, your raw material stock record, production record,
Mhm.
and lot of other modules, including accounting, costing. So
Mhm.
that is a sort of ERP package, one integrated everything in one. And if you, along with that, it may provide this e-invoice upload facility or conversion to invoice conversion to e-invoice facility. There is also another type of software which are providing connector between the existing e-invoice or accounting or ordinary invoicing software and the government portal. So this software does not provide you other functionality. Only they take data from your ERP or accounting or invoicing package, loads it to government portal, gets back valid e-invoice and stores it in their database. So these are various type of software available in market. You can use it. The government or the invoice portal provides only facility to convert your data from Excel to JSON format, and which is also not, I mean, we will discuss in further detail tomorrow that it will also require a lot of effort on your part to make those, provide those data in the format which is available in those tools. So that help is available, but that is useful only if you are making very few invoices. If you are making obviously more than 100 crore turnover, many of you are making large number of invoices, then that the tool which government is providing may not be convenient to use.
Okay, so.
And tomorrow there will also be a demo,
Mhm.
rather experience sharing by Venugopalji, who has done e-invoice implementation using Tally and GST Gen in 40 different organizations and very large number of locations. So he's a very experienced person. He will talk about his experience, and if possible, he will give you demo also. So those who have to work on the software, they are requested to not to miss that session tomorrow again at 4:15 p.m. Oh, okay, any other question?
So as you said that nowadays that e-invoice is not required to be raised at the same date. For example, I have raised one invoice and then I have sent that invoice to my customer, and after that I have raised the invoice. Whether the customer is eligible to take the credit based upon the invoice which was sent to him without any IRN in that invoice, I mean without any QR code on that invoice.
No, first of all, let me make my statement clear. There are two different points. One, if you are making an invoice, ordinary tax invoice, and sending material to your client on that tax invoice, that is your invoice, and if your turnover is more than 500 crore as of now, then that transaction, that invoice is not valid, that tax invoice is not valid. So your transaction of sending material to your customer is not valid, if goods are, if your vehicle is verified on the way, then it can be detained and you have to pay penalty and all those things. That tax invoice with which you have dispatched the material is not valid, and that is written in law. It is not in a notification or rule. It is a part of law that such where tax invoice, where e-invoice is applicable and person is sending with ordinary tax invoice, that tax invoice will not be considered as valid. Having done that, after 2 days or 3 days or 5 days, if you are trying to create e-invoice for that transaction, it will permit you to create. But that does not mean that your original transaction was valid. Your original transaction was not valid, but government permits you to create e-invoice for that. Is it clear? So my suggestion to everybody is not to send any material
Without
using ordinary tax invoice and after 4 days you will generate invoice because portal permits us to do. So it is valid transaction. No. When you are dispatching material, if material is caught, it will be treated as material is moving without valid invoice and you will have to pay all penalty and whatever further implication that will be applicable. But yes, if you are lucky and if your material has reached your client and subsequently you want to make e-invoice, government is not stopping you from making e-invoice. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Thanks, sir. Thanks so much.
Any other question? I think there is no question, so I'll move back to remaining part of presentation. There is still something more. What is the implication? Now we are going little bit towards the software side. Of course, some question I already answered, so this will be to that extent somewhat more of a repetition. But and this software section will be covered in session 3 in more detail. Here we'll cover in brief only. So first is e-invoice will have to be uploaded to government portal before dispatch of goods. This is as we already discussed. You cannot, although you are permitted to upload invoice after a few days also today, but you are not supposed to dispatch the material without e-invoice. And you cannot make e-way bill without e-invoice. E-way bill will be permitted only after you generate the e-invoice. You have to, based on that invoice only, you should generate the e-way bill. Then second is, it will not be convenient to send the e-invoice to GST consultant for uploading to government portal in all cases. So the business should have their own facility to upload the invoice to government portal. Like today, what most of the clients were doing, they used to send their list of invoices or invoice detail to GST consultant at the end of the month. And they used to file it in GSTR 1 and then remaining detail in GSTR 3B and so on. So they were relying on GST consultant to do that work. Now with e-invoice, you have to prepare e-invoice before dispatch of material so that you can create e-way bill also and dispatch the material. Because of that, it will not be convenient to send each invoice. You may be making dispatching truck at the night also. Now it will not be convenient to send that invoice to your GST consultant at night and get it uploaded to portal. So you should have your own software where you can upload the invoice to government portal to make them, convert them into e-invoice. And if you are using ERP or invoicing or accounting software, it is desirable to integrate e-invoicing software with those software so that duplicate data entry is avoided. Otherwise, if you buy two different software, like you don't modify your existing ERP or invoicing software and buy another e-invoicing package, you may end up doing duplicate data entry. That you should avoid. Of course, there are software which can pick up data from your ERP or invoicing application and convert them into the required format and then upload to government portal. Those will avoid duplicate data entry. So those type of software will be more suitable if you are already using some existing ERP where online integration is not possible. And one very important implication which I have put in red color is that some organization may have to change their ERP or invoicing or accounting software to meet their invoicing requirement. Because with the existing software, probably if you are finding it difficult to do invoicing, then it's better to use or buy and install another software which is much better. Your old software, if it is very old, probably the recent software may be much better and your work and efficiency in the organization may improve very much. So you should consider whether if your existing software is not good, then to buy software which is all integrated, including e-invoicing. Then the selection, purchasing, installing, configuring, and testing, all this activity will take time. So you should start this software purchase work earlier. Also, if you go to software vendor at the last moment, they will charge you very high price. If you go now, you can get quotation from 2-3 vendor, find which is good software and probably negotiate with vendor and get right price. In fact, some of the software vendor to whom I talk, they told openly, if there is some other software vendor is charging lower price, we will match that lower price. That means the e-invoice software vendor, at least some of them, are willing to negotiate and give you lower price if you do it now. But if you go to them at the last moment, they also know that you don't have now time left to negotiate, so they will not reduce the price. Also, configuration of your software may take time if you have some special requirement of e-invoicing. If your invoicing is somewhat different from normal invoicing, then you need to take special care, because the configuration of your software to connect it to the e-invoice software may take some time. Now, what type of software are available in market for e-invoicing? One is API integration. Now, API means application programming interface. This basically picks data from one system and gives it to another system, and from another system it gets back data and puts in either saves himself or puts in some other system. So if you have accounting or ERP package where invoices are generated, you can buy a API integration type software which will pick up invoice data from your accounting system, load it to government, get back the valid invoice or the signed e-invoice and store it. So this is one type of software which you can use if you have existing ERP or accounting or invoicing software. Then second type of software which provides you invoice preparation facility and then uploading and also GST return filing. This is suitable if you are not using today any invoice preparation software, or the one which you are using, you are not very comfortable with it, then you can buy this type of software. The third one is accounting plus invoicing. Here, not only invoice preparation, but entire accounting work is done in this software. And plus it has got facility for invoicing. It may also have GST return filing facility. And the last one, full-fledged ERP software, particularly for 100 to 500 crore turnover. Those who are not using ERP, I will suggest they should consider this ERP plus invoicing software, because my experience is that by using ERP, you can increase efficiency of your organization manifold or much more. So, and particularly during last few years, there is a lot of improvement in the software. Couple of years back, probably you did not get good software in India, or software were very costly, even if at all available. Today, software are not so costly and they are very good. They are cloud based, so you don't have to buy server. You don't have to recruit experienced and large team of IT professionals. So my suggestion is to consider ERP package, which will improve your efficiency, and it will have the the ERP package which has got e-invoice inbuilt into it, so that your e-invoice issue is also resolved. The software can also be classified from its location point of view into two parts. One is hosted or server based, where the software will be installed on your server and you can use it. On your PC, you can connect in a network to use it. This is the traditional software. The second type of software is cloud-based software, where software and the data are stored on a server connected to internet, and you just log into that software, do the data entry, do your work, uh, and you pay to the software vendor or the software service provider monthly or yearly fee. You don't have to buy the server. You don't have to engage very expert staff in maintaining your IT setup. So, particularly for small organization, cloud-based software is very much convenient. Also, it has got another advantage. If you have got more than one location, you can do data entry from all the location. You can see the output from some other location, like data entry can be done at one location and the e-invoice can be generated and printed at second location. So without having your separate network. So because of this, multi-location organization, those who are having HO plus plant at different location, or those who are having manufacturing facility at different location, or those who are having warehouse in different location from where they want to dispatch the goods, those organization will find this type of cloud-based software very convenient, and they should consider this. Now the last point, you need to check up what is your current software, what you are using, and how it is. Are you using invoicing software? Are you using GST software? Are you using ERP or accounting software? Depending upon your present software, you have to select the e-invoicing software which can work with your current software. Then it will be very good. If it cannot work, then you will have more difficulties. You will have two different set of software which may require double data entry. Then how old they are. If you are using very old software, it may be better to replace it with new software. Are you happy with software which we are using today? If you are not happy, better buy another software which is because now much better software are available. Are they integrated? Or do you end up doing multiple data entry? For example, receipt of material, you do separate data entry in storekeeping. you do separate data entry in accounting software for bill passing. If that is happening, then it is a right time to buy an integrated software where you don't have to do double data entry. And are they cloud-based? If you are not using cloud-based software, and if you are having multiple locations, then cloud-based software, if you buy, it will be much more convenient. And then last point, your existing software, can it be upgraded to invoicing option? If not, it's better to either replace the software or to get a connector. Nowadays, invoicing connectors are available, which will take data from your existing software, convert it to required format, and generate an invoice. So these are the various points you should take into account while taking software decision. Again, more detail we will be covering in session 3 of this software. Any question on this? Anybody has got any question on this? Okay, if there is no question, we will move back to remaining part of our presentation, and I'll try to finish quickly because I think, yes, we have already only 15 minutes left now. So I'll complete it within that time. Just give me a minute. Now this part gives reference. If you want to do further study, this is the address of portal, and these are two good articles which explains e-invoicing in great detail. Again, I'm going to share this presentation as well as the recorded presentation in e-Invoice Hub, which is a WhatsApp group. So if you are not member of that WhatsApp group, please send me WhatsApp message and I'll send you link to become WhatsApp group so that you can get this presentation as well as recorded version of this presentation or webinar. These are various notifications useful to those who want to study legal aspect of invoice in detail. These are some of the rules which are affecting invoice preparation. Now I am going to cover a dynamic QR code, which is not part of invoice but similar to invoice, so it is creating a lot of confusion. This first point is it is not same as e-invoice. It's totally different from e-invoice. So we should not confuse with e-invoice. And this is dynamic QR code is required for B2C transaction. That means when your customer do not have GSTIN number or in mostly applicable in retail sale, this QR code are applicable. And they are applicable from 1st of December 2020 if the aggregate turnover of the business is more than 500 crore. So this will be applicable to most of the malls, large malls or malls having mall chains which are having multiple malls in different locations because their turnover may cross 500 crore limit. They are expected to implement this dynamic QR code. Now, what is dynamic QR code? It is either to be displayed or it can be printed on invoice so that customer can scan and make payment. The purpose of dynamic QR code is that customer should be able to make payment easily. The invoice is not required to be registered with e-invoice portal. This dynamic QR code invoice or B2C invoice that is not required to be registered with government. And the dynamic QR code is to be generated by the supplier. Supplier has to generate the dynamic QR code himself using his own software. Now, what is the difference between fixed QR code and dynamic QR code? To understand this, first let's talk about what is fixed QR code. Now, if you are going in any retail shop, in many places you might be seeing the QR code. You can scan that QR code or using your mobile phone, using some application for making payment, and then you have to enter the amount to be paid and click on OK or do something to authorize the payment, and then payment will be made. These QR code are fixed. They contain information about the account code of the seller, bank detail and account code, so that you don't have to type it again. But they don't include the amount of invoice. How much money you have to pay, that is not included. So they remain fixed for a seller. They just display on the counter, you scan it and enter payment additionally and make the payment. But in case of dynamic QR code, they also include the amount of payment to be made. And because of that, it is different QR code for each invoice generated. And that is why it cannot be displayed on a fixed look. It cannot be displayed as a fixed QR code. For each invoice, it will be generated and it has to be either included on the invoice which is printed, or it can be shown on the screen, a computer screen or any other screen, from where client can scan it. So once he scans it, he will get the amount also. He will also get the bank detail of the seller, including account number. So he has to just authorize payment, click on OK, and payment can be made. So making payment will be very easy. And with this, the payment will become, government is expecting that digital payment will grow. Also, it will not need credit card or debit card. It will use UPI interface, which Indian government has developed. And because of that, the lot of payment which goes to credit card and debit card companies abroad, that we will be able to save. For this, if you want to study more, these are the notification and this is the web page where you can study more. So this part is also over. And lastly, the legal notice. We have tried our best to give you correct information and we have also given you reference. But for each organization, there can be different factors affecting your legal situation and your requirement. So we suggest you study the things in detail before implementing, and we do not take any responsibility for any loss or any damage if you implement it without verifying the detail. With this, my session is over. Please note down my phone number. If you want to talk to me, you can talk to me at any time, or you can connect to me via WhatsApp or SMS. The phone number is 98252-31592. I'll repeat, 98252-31592. And this is my email address, shm958@hotmail.com. With this, the presentation is over. Are there any question? Anybody wants to ask any question? I think there is no question. So I will end the session here. Thank you and bye.